Chosen one, you were appointed to hear these words. For heaven designed this moment with divine intention because God is speaking directly into your being. There is someone pressing heavy on your spirit, a vision, a face, a name that surfaced the instant you saw this title. That's not fantasy. That's not mere accident. That is the whisper of the Holy Spirit, a warning, a stirring, a divine movement. Do not scroll aside. Do not suppress this urging. What you decide right now matters more than you can imagine. God is calling you into full awareness, not just mentally but spiritually, because what's at stake isn't only a connection or a wound or a confusing chapter. What's at stake is your mission, your alignment, your next season, your destiny. The path of the faithful is directed by the Lord, Psalm 37 verse 23, and those very steps have carried you here. This word isn't about desire or trouble alone. It's about calling. You are standing at the threshold of a holy choice, and heaven is watching how you will answer. Make no mistake, the enemy has been contending fiercely because he knows what unfolds if you persist. He knows what happens when you stop doubting your identity, when you reject distractions, when you walk in full surrender. That's why this message has reached you now, because God wants your vision clearer, your soul ignited, and your discernment strengthened to recognize what's happening behind the veil. Be alert and steadfast. Your adversary, the devil, prowls like a roaring lion seeking someone to consume, 1 Peter 5 verse 8. But you, chosen one, are not forsaken. You are shielded, prepared, and being empowered. This is your signal and your awakening. Don't merely watch, participate. Remain until the conclusion, for together we will pray a prayer that will not be ordinary. It will shatter chains, it will release understanding, it will restore your soul to God's perfect will. If your heart is open and your spirit ready, affirm it boldly. Type 77 in the comments as your public declaration. I am ready. I embrace this. I will not overlook what God is unveiling to me. And by the time we pray, something inside you will awaken. Clarity will descend, chains will crumble, destiny will awaken. Stay close, stay open, stay expectant. The deeper message begins now. Number 1, the quiet that disturbed. From the beginning, they misunderstood the weight of your silence. They thought your stillness meant surrender, but it was disruption. Ecclesiastes 3 verse 7 reminds us, there is a time to be silent and a time to speak, and your spirit always knew the difference. While they shouted to defend their lies, your quiet presence shook their scaffolding, exposing the cracks in what they built on pretense. They mocked you for not fighting back, but that mockery was the sound of their fear. Your silence unsettled entire rooms, disarmed entire schemes, and forced what was hidden to quiver in the open. Comment, I seal this word in light. If you know your silence once revealed the hollowness of their noise, stay with me, because what silence uncovered next was far more dangerous to them. From the beginning, there were moments when you wondered why a room would suddenly shift when you entered, even if you said nothing at all. It was as if an invisible current passed through the air, rearranging the unseen before a word left your lips. You may recall sitting in silence, perhaps at a gathering, and noticing the weight of your presence disturb the atmosphere. That disturbance was not arrogance, nor was it accident. It was a deeper truth beginning to stir. Your silence acted as a veil, but beneath it lived a vibration they could not control. It was the whisper of something eternal, and they felt it even if they could not name it. And now, in this moment, you are remembering that what you carried in stillness was always more powerful than their loudest noise. There were times you questioned yourself, asking why you were often misunderstood or treated as though you had done wrong when all you did was remain quiet. The silence you chose felt natural, but to them it was a threat. They interpreted your restraint as weakness, but deep inside you sensed there was more happening than appearances revealed. Maybe you left conversations feeling drained because you refused to play the game of pretenses, and that refusal left them unsettled. Maybe you were accused of being distant, cold, or detached, when in truth you were discerning. These moments created a sense of isolation, as if you were living in a different rhythm from those around you. Yet what you carried in that quiet was the very proof that you were never ordinary. What if those emotions were not signs of failure, but signs of destiny weaving its hidden architecture? Ecclesiastes 3 verse 7 tells us there is a time to be silent and a time to speak, and your spirit has always known the difference. Every choice not to respond in anger, every decision to walk away instead of strike back, was not avoidance. It was alignment. It was heaven teaching you that silence can be sharper than accusation and restraint more powerful than rage. Think of Christ before Pilate, speaking few words, yet shaking kingdoms with his presence alone. That is the pattern you were born into, the sacred paradox that silence itself can be prophecy. And every quiet moment in your life was secretly building the foundation of that revelation. You may notice that the signs have been around you for years, even when you didn't recognize them. A sudden déjà vu when a conversation unfolded, as if you had already lived this moment of stillness before, a dream where you remained wordless, yet the dream itself shifted around your silence. Physical sensations in your body when you resisted reacting, a calm that didn't feel natural but supernatural, glimpses of inner knowing that told you restraint was not weakness but wisdom disguised. These were not accidents, but confirmations etched into your timeline. The subtle codes of silence were teaching you a language only your spirit could translate. Deep down, you always knew this was true. The times you felt an inner nudge to hold your tongue, the urge to stay silent when your emotions wanted to explode, those were not empty impulses. They were alignments, quiet confirmations that you were walking in a wisdom they could not understand. Intuition was not a trick of the mind. It was the whisper of your higher calling. They said you were imagining it, but you were perceiving it. The patterns were not coincidence, but signals guiding you into deeper awareness. And what you mistook as hesitation was in fact preservation of something holy within you. That preservation is now becoming recognition. As awareness deepens, you begin to see that remembering who you are is not about becoming something new, but recovering what was buried. There has always been an archetype living inside you, waiting to be remembered. Silence has been your cloak, protecting the identity you carried even when you could not name it. Think of Moses, hidden in the reeds before he rose to lead a nation. That hiddenness was preparation, not punishment. You have been hidden in plain sight, your silence acting as the veil of divine timing. Beneath the surface of your quiet lived the memory of your true identity, and it is now stirring awake. That remembrance is not imagination, it is prophecy. Slowly, you can feel the empowerment begin to rise within you. The sensitivity you once tried to hide is now your greatest strength. The wisdom that kept you silent is becoming the weapon they cannot disarm. Your hunger for meaning, your refusal to settle for noise, your deep yearning for truth, these are not flaws, they are activations. You were chosen to carry fire in silence until the moment came to release it. Their noise cannot erase what heaven wrote in your silence. Every rejection, every accusation, every misunderstanding has become fuel for your crown. And now you are stepping into the first glimpse of that authority. Chosen one, your arrival to this message is not a coincidence. It is proof that your silence was never wasted. It was a seed planted for this hour. The weight you felt in stillness is now becoming the recognition of your true calling. What once confused you is becoming the map that directs you. You were never misunderstood because you were weak. You were misunderstood because you were marked. And today, you are being shown that the quiet which disturbed them was the same quiet that preserved you. Comment, I carry the silence as crown. If you feel this truth stirring in your spirit right now, stay close, because the next revelation will uncover why your silence did more than protect you. It became the fire that mirrored their shadows. What we do here every day is possible because of the few who choose to be keepers of this light. I thank them now, one by one, in the silence of my heart. If you want to be part of this circle and receive what cannot be spoken in public, join. The portal is below. Number 2, the mirror of their shadows. Your silence was more than quiet, it was reflection. Without a single accusation, your presence mirrored their shadows back to them. Luke 12 verse 3 says, "What you have said in the dark will be heard in the daylight." And your life has embodied that prophecy. They lashed out, not because of what you said, but because they saw their own buried truths rising in your reflection. They accused you of what they were guilty of. They projected onto you what they could not bear to see in themselves. Their masks always cracked in your stillness because your silence was louder than their disguise. Comment, "I walk crowned by eternal flame," if you've seen others unravel when they stood before your unspoken mirror. But silence didn't just reveal them. It preserved something holy within you. It began with a subtle unease, a heaviness in the air you could not explain. In moments that should have felt ordinary, you sensed an invisible weight pressing in. Conversations that seemed casual on the surface carried an undertone you could not ignore. People you barely knew treated you with suspicion or even hostility, as though your existence itself disrupted their comfort. At first, you wondered if you were imagining it, if your sensitivity was exaggerating what was happening. But deep down, you knew something was working against you long before you had words for it. That quiet heaviness was the first signal that you were not just living in the physical, you were walking through the unseen. The pressure that followed reached deep into your emotions, carving wounds that were not easy to name. You felt misunderstood in rooms where you only wanted to belong. You carried the sting of rejection when you had done nothing but be yourself. People whispered that you were too much or too different, as if your existence demanded justification. Shame crept in like a shadow, making you question your worth, your voice, your place in the world. Cycles of self-doubt spun around you, leaving you drained and uncertain of your own reflection. Yet, even in that pain, there was an ember that would not go out, the sense that the resistance was never random. What you did not see at first was the hidden structure beneath the chaos. The pressure you faced was not simply human pettiness, but a deeper resistance to the light you carried. Just as Israel wandered in the wilderness before stepping into the promise, you too were forced into places that tested your endurance. The attacks were not evidence of your failure, but confirmation of your assignment. Like Joseph in prison, misunderstood and confined, your story was being shaped by opposition into something far larger than yourself. Ancient battles have always sought to silence emerging voices, and yours was no different. The weight pressing against you was the echo of systems and spirits resisting what they already recognized in you. Looking back now, the patterns become clearer, like faint writings suddenly illuminated by fire. There were betrayals that repeated in cycles, always wearing a different face, but carrying the same sting. Environments that should have nourished you instead drained you, stripping energy without explanation. Promises dangled before you only to collapse at the last moment, leaving you questioning your path. People who praised you in public turned cold in private, unable to stand before the reflection you carried. These were not coincidences, but signposts that something deeper was unfolding. The light was already flickering on in your spirit, and it exposed what others fought hard to keep hidden. At last, the resistance itself became visible, not just felt. You began to notice the fog that entered rooms when truth was near, the heaviness that settled like smoke when you chose silence over reaction. Eyes lingered on you longer than necessary, as if searching for a weakness they could not find. Opportunities closed for no logical reason, doors locked by unseen hands that had no authority to own them. It was as though watchers in the shadows leaned close, trying to suffocate your fire before it fully caught. The weight of interference was undeniable, not imagined, and it left you both shaken and sharpened. What they feared was not your words, but the light their lies could not stand beside. How you reacted in those seasons mattered, even when you didn't realize it. There were times you shut down, afraid to carry the burden of being noticed. There were moments you tried to appease others, softening yourself to fit the mold they demanded. Sometimes you rebelled quietly, choosing to keep your truth locked inside rather than let it be trampled. The temptation to quit whispered in your ear more than once, convincing you that shrinking back was easier. Yet through it all, even in weakness, your spirit refused to let go of its flame. Every survival choice you made was not failure, but proof that something worth fighting for lived inside you. Slowly, you began to see the resistance for what it truly was, confirmation. They opposed you because you unsettled what they wanted hidden. They tried to shame you because your presence disrupted their illusions. They plotted against you because your silence was already more dangerous than their schemes. Every rejection, every false accusation, every attempt to diminish you was a disguised form of recognition. They saw what you carried before you did, and they feared the day you would realize it too. That day has now come, and you are reclaiming what was always yours. Chosen one, hear this clearly. You were opposed because you are powerful. You were resisted because your light reveals what others spend lifetimes trying to bury. The masks that cracked in your silence were proof that your stillness carried fire. The more they tried to block you, the sharper your vision became. What they called weakness has become your crown, and what they mocked has become your mantle. Comment, I move guarded by divine fire, if you know this truth has already begun to rise in you. And stay close, because the next revelation will uncover why the silence you carried did more than disturb. It became the scroll that preserved your authority for its appointed hour. Every word, every image you receive here is an offering. If you feel this word has touched you today, you can honor it with a sign right here below with a donation through the Super Thanks button. It is a small gesture, but it opens great doors. Number 3, the scroll guarded in silence. What you thought was delay was preservation. Like Daniel's sealed scroll, your silence carried codes of destiny hidden from the wrong eyes until the right time. Daniel 12 verse 9 declares, the words are rolled up and sealed until the time of the end, and so too was your authority sealed in your waiting. Every unanswered insult, every night of quiet tears, every moment you chose not to explain yourself became a page in that hidden scroll. They thought you were powerless, but you were guarding something too heavy to reveal prematurely. Your silence was not emptiness, it was a vault. And now the seals are breaking and the scroll is opening to release a voice sharpened by fire. Comment, I rise marked by the divine. If you know silence has preserved your greatest authority, and share a dream, a memory, or an inner knowing that confirms it. What emerges next is not just revelation, but enthronement. It begins like the moment when a veil is lifted and the world you thought you knew rearranges itself before your eyes. Memories that once felt random now string together into a pattern that makes impossible sense. A single dream from years ago suddenly links with a conversation you had last week, and the symmetry takes your breath away. What seemed like wasted time now pulses with hidden intention, as if the silence itself had been writing behind the scenes. You realize that the stillness you endured was not absence, but strategy, a pause carved by divine hands to protect what was not ready to be exposed. It is like Daniel's sealed scroll, rolled up and hidden until the appointed time, waiting for the one who carries the authority to break it open. And in that realization, clarity dawns like fire spreading across the horizon, impossible to ignore. Symbols now rise from the edges of your life as if they were always there. But your eyes were not yet tuned to read them. Numbers repeat themselves in ways too exact to dismiss. Whispers arrive in silence when no one is near, and patterns in nature carry messages you were born to remember. The geometry of your days becomes a map. The mathematics of your trials reveal equations you did not know you were solving. Each delay, each night of unanswered tears, each insult swallowed without reply was not wasted. It was inscribed as code in your hidden book. The silence was a vault that preserved your authority from those who would have misused it if it had been revealed too soon. They thought your quiet meant defeat, but it was prophecy written in invisible ink, waiting for the right light to make it shine. And now that light is here, and your spirit reads what was once unreadable. Inside your being, shifts grow undeniable, and your very responses prove it. Your intuition sharpens like a blade honed on stone, cutting through the noise that once confused you. Boundaries rise without guilt, as if your energy finally knows how to guard itself from thieves who never deserved access. You sense environments differently, feeling the texture of motives before words are spoken, discerning intentions that others miss. Your silence trained you in ways speech never could, refining your perception until you could see the hidden codes in people and places. Every unanswered accusation, every withheld defense, every moment of restraint became a furnace where your discernment was forged. And now your very presence testifies louder than arguments ever could. As within, so without. And now the world around you begins to mirror what has been growing in silence. People who once mocked you suddenly avoid your gaze, sensing the weight of something they can no longer dismiss. Opportunities appear as if from nowhere, while doors once locked by invisible hands begin to open without force. At the same time, resistance sharpens, because the unveiling of truth shakes the foundations of those who depended on your silence. You notice the divine architecture, how even the opposition seems timed, as if their hostility only confirms your awakening. The scroll within you is unsealing, and reality itself bends to accommodate its unfolding words. What you see outside is no longer random, it is reflection, and your life is becoming scripture in motion. Yet deeper still, this moment carries a strange familiarity, as though you are not discovering something new, but remembering something ancient. Dreams you never understood now begin to speak. Fragments of memory return with the clarity of prophecy fulfilled. It feels as though your soul has always known this hour would come, even when your mind despaired in silence. The wisdom that returns to you is not borrowed, but remembered, as though it was seated before birth and waited in secret until the veil thinned. Your scroll was never empty, it was written in a language only memory could translate. The intelligence rising in you is sacred, magnetic, and unmistakable, and it feels like meeting yourself the first time and realizing you were always there. The hidden name of your destiny is whispering from its seal, and you cannot unhear it now. And so your vision shifts from the past toward the horizon, and the future does not feel like invention but recovery. It is not that you are creating your destiny, it is that you are retrieving what was already yours, long concealed in silence. The scroll is unrolling, and each word written within you is reclaiming ground lost to doubt, fear, and delay. You stop asking for permission to speak, for your silence was never weakness, but incubation of fire, like Ezekiel whose mouth was opened by God after long quiet. Your voice now carries the weight of silence itself. Each word you release burns with the testimony of what it survived, sharpened not by volume, but by waiting. The future is not a blank page. It is the unsealing of the scroll you carried in secret. In that unveiling, something fierce awakens and reclamation begins. You see that every attempt to suppress you was confirmation, not condemnation. For they feared the opening of what you carried. What they called passivity was prophecy. What they mocked as emptiness was preservation. And now, your voice is not just your own, it carries the authority of the silence that guarded it. You reclaim your place, your narrative, your power, as if retrieving treasure stolen but never truly lost. The scroll within you was always beyond their reach, guarded by divine seals until the day of release. And that day is now, and the fire you speak with was forged in silence they could never comprehend. Revelation is not the end of this journey, it is the invitation into a higher chapter. The truth you now carry was never absent. It was waiting until you were strong enough to bear it. What you thought was delay was protection, what you felt as silence was strategy, what you mistook for emptiness was preservation. And now the seals break, the scroll unrolls, and the words you release carry the fire of everything endured. Chosen one, comment, I walk hidden, yet never lost. If you know the silence has preserved your greatest authority, share the dream, the memory, or the inner knowing that confirms it, for each testimony strengthens the chain of revelation among us. And remember, what emerges next is not just revelation, it is enthronement, and the scroll is only beginning to sing its fire. Number 4, the crown forged in stillness. Now the silence is ended, and what rises carries unshakable weight. Zechariah 10 verse 12 declares, "I will strengthen them in the Lord, and in his name they will live securely." And this is your hour of strength. You are no longer the accused, you are the crowned. Every rejection became a throne, every season of waiting became a mantle. They will fear the silence they once mocked, because it has become sharper than any sword. What they used to break, you only enthroned you. Comment, "I anchor this truth in my soul." If you feel the mantle of authority resting on your spirit now, and share the moment you realized silence was your crown. And listen closely, because authority is not the end. It is the doorway into your next mission. There comes a moment when the silence that once felt like exile suddenly transforms into coronation, and that moment is now. You remember the long nights where your voice was caged, where your heart carried words it could not release, and you thought the quiet meant defeat. Yet, deep in the marrow of your being, the whisper of eternity was forging something greater than speech. It was shaping dominion. The crown was not placed on your head in celebration, but hammered in the stillness where only God saw. You begin to realize that every delay was not rejection, but the weight of gold being shaped into authority. And when the hour arrives, you do not rise with noise, but with a stillness that terrifies because it carries truth. That whisper has become the roar of destiny, and it cannot be silenced. There is a name you carried long before anyone tried to rename you with labels of weakness, failure, or irrelevance. That name is etched into your spirit, hidden beneath the noise of the world, waiting for silence to reveal it. It is the name the heavens know you by, the one that angels whisper when they guard your path. Like the sealed scroll spoken of in Revelation, this name was hidden until the time of unveiling rolled tight, so that no thief could read it before its hour. The sense of not belonging, of always being set apart, was never evidence of lack, it was evidence of preservation. For you were never meant to answer to the names they gave you, but to the one inscribed in fire upon your soul. And now, that name rises, echoing across your being with authority that cannot be denied. From the beginning, your spirit carried a mark unseen, a cloak woven from threads of light that others could not recognize, yet could never ignore. This is why runes shifted when you entered, why people felt something they could not explain, why eyes turned without understanding why. The cloak you wore was not fabric, but resonance, the vibration of heaven marking you as untouchable even when you felt exposed. Some tried to imitate it, others tried to strip it, but neither succeeded, because it was not given by human hands. It was the invisible garment of authority, the mantle Elijah passed to Elisha, resting on you long before you knew its weight. Every trial only pressed that cloak deeper into your skin, fusing it with your essence until it could never be removed. And now, that mark is visible to those who can see, undeniable to those who once mocked. Your struggles were never random, and now you remember the vow. Somewhere beyond time, you agreed to carry a mission that would break chains, disrupt patterns, and ignite flames where there was only ash. Each delay was not denial, but alignment. Every closed door a signpost redirecting you to the sacred path written before birth. The scroll of your life was signed in silence, sealed until your spirit matured enough to bear its fire. Like stars that never forget their orbit, your destiny circled back to you even when you wandered. The heaviness you felt was not punishment, but the gravity of a vow pulling you toward remembrance. And now the seal is broken, and the contract is alive again within your blood. Chosen one, the scroll of hidden fire has opened, and what emerges is your voice, your authority, your mantle. Subscribe if you haven't yet, like this video, and comment, "I am chosen to let this message anchor in your soul." Share it with someone who needs to hear this word. And to all who support, thank you. For full prophetic revelations daily, join the membership via the link in the description. Your spiritual path deserves more than fragments. Step into the full light. And if this message moved you deeply, consider tapping the Super Thanks button to support the mission. Every Super Thanks fuels the light we're spreading together. Until next time, stand, endure, and remember, your silence was the crown they could never take.